Hi, guys. Welcome to Tickers, the series from the Limitless podcast, where we review listed companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I'm Thaon,
And I'm Matthew.
and today we'll be talking about Indies Pharma Jamaica Limited, ticker as Indies. But before we go into the video, guys, we would love if you could subscribe. We have a goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you have friends that also watch on YouTube or whatever your podcasting platform of choice is, we'd love a follow, we'd love a subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. It means a lot to us, right? But without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, tickers, Indies. How you feeling about Indies, Preston?
Yeah, I mean, they are, it's like a medical company. So it's something that I think we can understand. We have certain, I guess, we call it unfair advantages in terms of understanding the business. It is one of, how many other companies is them? R.A. Williams, and I think MDS, medical
We
disposables.
have quite a few. We'll talk about
pharmaceutical distributors, like listed ones.
There's still a couple more, but yes, I agree. And we will go into all of them for sure. You guys will find out later on in the podcast. But no, I agree. I love the company. I love how simple the business model is, I should say. Find out at the end of the podcast what my position is on
someone
Indies.
Just skip to the end.
Yeah, right. Please don't, guys, because the meat of the matter, right? We really have to figure out. For me personally, when I'm researching stocks, I have to figure out, why does this company? How do they make money, right? How else, because if you want to buy it, you have to know what the company does. So let's jump right in. Preston, I'm gonna ask you to share my Notion page. Yes. But this is Indies. So, Indies was actually incorporated in 2003, sorry. But they actually listed their IPOs in 2018. So they're a pharmaceutical distribution company, right? It's as simple as that. They just distribute pharmaceuticals. Of course, there are some other things that we will go into.
What are pharmaceuticals?
Pharmaceuticals are
the big words.
Oh, true. It's like medication. You have prescription, you have and non-prescription, or OTC, as we call over-the-counter medication. So they distribute a lot of those, and they actually distribute the generic version of a lot of them. So of course you have branded versions and generic versions of specific drugs. I'm gonna give you an example, like Augmentin. Augmentin is the generic name is actually a combination between amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. But they have
big words.
Yeah, all these big antibiotics are rough back in med school for me to remember, because they're long and they're new words, and yeah. But you have tons of different brands that sell Augmentin. You have Moxiclav. You have even Indies has their own, and they actually distribute over 150 generic drugs or generic pharmaceutical products under Bioprist Pharmaceuticals, right? That's the brand of drugs, and they distribute it to pharmacies, hospitals, etc. Doctors' offices, health centers, all across Jamaica. And they actually get the drugs. They're sourced from India and Bangladesh. Another listed company that gets their drugs from India and Bangladesh mainly, R.A. Williams. So if you guys want to see us analyze R.A. Williams, I don't think it's in the Tickers playlist, but we did it when they were doing their IPO, so you can check them out.
They've been for like almost a year.
Yeah. Wow, time flies. But yes, almost a year now.
But it's not just you're saying like Indies, you said a lot of their drugs are made in India, but it's just pharmaceutical companies in general, like a large portion of the world, like a lot of the drugs across the world are made in India and those areas. So it's not like they're the outlier.
True. Very true. India is the powerhouse of manufacturing a lot of those drugs. Bangladesh, a lot of those countries over that side of the world. But if you click medications, we can talk about a few. Now, both doctors that watch our podcast, nurses, healthcare providers, and patients should know some of their medications. And if you scroll down, you'll see some. I took this screenshot from their prospectus on their listing. So I don't know if you've used any of these, Preston. I've used Ventaflux.
HB Vortex.
HB Vortex. I've prescribed HB Vortex. Especially to pregnant patients, I find that HB Vortex is good because I think it binds to, I don't know if it's sorbitol or something like that, but it prevents constipation. It's an iron tablet, and a lot of iron tablets can cause constipation. So yeah, it has that low side effect profile of constipation. You know, they have Ventaflux, Occuvolt. I know Flexim and Flexim Plus, really good pain medication. So if you come out of that picture, you'll see the list of a lot of just the class of drugs that are there. So they have a lot of antibiotics, and if you click them, I just text. There's text for some. So they have Amclav as that's their brand of Augmentin. That's amoxicillin and the same clavulanic acid, Amclav. See, so they have a ton of different drugs. And if you keep looking, the different classes, they have the anti-diabetic medication, hypertensive medication. I prescribe a lot of their hypertensive medication. Amloval, a lot of people should, if you are hypertensive, you should know.
So you specifically write this brand on the prescription?
I specifically will write Amloval, yes.
Oh, why?
Good question. And I think a lot of primary care physicians like doing this where they prescribe combination drugs, because there are two different medications that are actually combined in one pill for patients. So it's amlodipine and valsartan, and they act synergistically to lower blood pressure. So it's always good, because my biggest issue with a lot of patients is, not taking medication, we call non-compliance. So if you lessen the pill burden, right, if you have more, combination drugs and so on, it makes it much, much easier for them to actually say, all right, instead of taking 3 pills a day, I can always just take this 1 pill. And I should look at that one in that.
But then why wouldn't you just, why do you specifically write Amloval instead of just writing amlodipine, valsartan, and then if there was
shorter. It's literally just shorter, bro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just it's because you're writing fast. You just say Amloval instead of writing amlodipine plus valsartan.
So that's why you said the naming. It's good for them to pick a nice or a name that's easy to remember.
Yeah, and Amloval is pretty easy to remember. Well, as a doctor, it is, and you just write the dose. So it's either it's 10-5, because you have different preparations. Can be 10-160. Sorry, why did I say 10-5? 10-80. I was thinking 5-80, 10-80, 10-160. They have it in a lot of different preparations. So yeah, yeah, they have quite a bit of different drugs. Yeah, that I think is Flexim. A lot of people know Flexim. Really, really strong pain medication. So yeah, their drugs are pretty popular. In fact, some of the first free drugs I've gotten were from BioPrist. As doctors, you get samples to test it out on maybe some patients. I mean, I test some of them out on myself, of course. A drug rep gave me some antihistamines the other day when I was sick, and I was just like, perfect timing. So, you realize that a lot of these medications, it's not just, it's good for them to, the drug reps to give to the doctors. So not only are the doctors sensitized and so on, it's just good branding, good marketing overall. So if you actually look through a lot of their, their reports and so on, or what the CEO says, they do spend money on marketing, and a lot of these drug companies have to, because that's how you get the drugs out. That's how you get people to prescribe them. That's how you get patients to buy them. So you have to be spending a lot of money on marketing. And yeah, they have supplements. I put vitamins like HB Vortex, and as you can see, BioPrist If you scroll down a little bit, you see BioPrist on all of them. So BioPrist is the manufacturer, and there's a holding company that's the number one shareholder, which we will go into. But yeah, so that's medication. Also, some of their customers. So they actually listed a few of their customers. The network. So you have pharmacies. Over 400 pharmacies in Jamaica are served by BioPrist. Sorry, Indies. We're calling them BioPrist. They get sent. I don't know. Have you seen any of their medications in hospital at the hospital you work at?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. I see a lot in private practice, but that's primary healthcare. So a lot of them are probably more geared towards that. But they do have some for inpatient. I saw some strong. What was it? Meropenem, which is like an IV antibiotics. You can only give it in the vein, so that can only be administered really in hospitals. I'm not sure though. I remember seeing some IV antibiotics and some IV drugs. But government agencies, so a lot of their medications are subsidized by the NHF. Medical practitioners. They also have some that are not prescription meds. And Trident Pharmacy. I put Trident Pharmacy here. If you can come out of this and actually go to the Trident Pharmacy page, Trident Pharmacy is actually their retail pharmacy operations, and it's owned by Indies Pharma, Jamaica. So it's actually located in Montego Bay, Sam Sharp Square, and they, outside of their full range of health and wellness services, it really is a lot of the sale of pharmaceuticals, and I think the prescriptions, a lot of them are just BioPrist, from what I understood. And it never used to be like that. So I don't know when the change was. They did say it in a Gleaner article, but they started exclusively selling a lot of BioPrist medication and some other stuff as well. And yeah, there's just a wide product range under the BioPrist brand and so on. So it's kind of smart to have your own pharmacy that distributes your own drugs. But when I looked at it, if you look, it says Trident Pharmacy is considered one of the top 20 customers of Indies Pharma. So yes, there's a significant business relationship and so on, but top 20 doesn't mean top 10. So there must be other customers that probably buy a lot more of their drugs than just Trident Pharmacy. But yeah. And also Trident Pharmacy sits on some land that they own. Indies owns, I think, approximately 3 acres of land in that area, and it's for warehousing space. They expanded for warehousing space and for more commercial utilization, so other businesses would build upon it and so on. But they also earn based on the land that they own. So sometimes if you look through their financials, you'll see reevaluation on the assets. So you'll see the gain on the asset price of the land. So you buy the land for, I don't know, 300 mil, and you reevaluate and it's now worth 320 mil. That's a gain on your investment. So that's also partially how they can make money as well. And you can see that in historical financials. So yeah, never been to Trident Pharmacy. Well, I should check it out one day if I'm in Mobay.
Okay.
But that's basically how they make money. Let's move on to some other areas of Indies. So within the ecosystem, you have a bunch of competitors. All right. Now, this industry is kind of cutthroat. There are a ton of different other brands, competing brands, even for the same amlodipine. You have so many different brands of amlodipine that people can prescribe, that doctors can prescribe, and so on for their patients. So they have to be competing with those other brands as well. And the competitors are, they're listed here. So we have Massey, we have Lash D, we have Facey, and Facey is owned by Seprod. You have Aria Williams, who is not a new player, but they're new to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. You have MDS, CariMed, Medimpex. And then if you scroll down, this was actually taken from Aria Williams's their prospectus. And if you look, it actually kind of outlines the type of company. So it shows a competitor, what type of company they are. So on the Indies, Alaska distributors, well, Facey Commodity isn't really private, but it is private. It is private. It actually is private. But as we said, they're owned by Seprod. And you can see how long a lot of them have been in business. Like Facey Commodity has been in business for over 80 years, right? And Indies just incorporated in 2003. Yeah. So they're competing against some giants. And it shows also what they distribute. So Indies, as you can see, is just generic drugs. But you can tell like a Carimed also has brand name drugs and generic drugs. And they also manufacture and distribute like Carimed does. Yet Indies, I know it says they manufacture. They have the retail, which is a pharmacy.
Trident.
Which is Trident. And then they distribute. They say manufacturer, and they do manufacture, but through partnerships. So if you actually look through, it's actually a lot of partnerships that they do to manufacture. They have partnership with, of course, BioPris, the parent company. But they also have one, I think, with a KP Pharmaceutical Technology Inc., which is a US-based drug maker to develop generic drugs on the US market. And, that we will speak about soon when we get to one specific drug, because they're trying to develop 2 generic drugs, but one got FDA approval, which a lot of you guys may know about, but we'll talk about soon. So so this table is really good. Big up Ari Williams for having this in their prospectus. But this is an Indies ticker, so let's keep going. And that's that. A lot of these also, you had this in one of your previous slides about Jamaica's health demographics, and just globally as well. So 30% of Jamaica's population has hypertension, 12.5% has diabetes, right? And as I said, I prescribe some antihypertensive meds from BioPris. I can't imagine how many other doctors do that as well, right? So, and there's an estimate for in the future, there are a lot of stats being thrown out that, of course, chronic diseases, what we call NCDs, to non-communicable diseases, those plan to increase.
What does that mean?
And so non-communicable means, thank you for asking that. It's like it's not infectious, so you can't catch it like a cold, you can't catch it like chicken pox, right? It's more of a long-standing chronic illness. So hypertension, diabetes, we're thinking high cholesterol as well. There are a lot of other chronic illnesses that are out there, and that Indies produces medications to help and to help treat. So a lot of them plan to, increase. I think number 1 killer in Jamaica is heart disease. Heart disease is number 1. Even more than murders, which have been down, but yes. So, and there are a lot of cardiovascular drugs, out there, especially from BioPris, from Indies. So as that population increases in terms of people with non-communicable diseases, there will be an increased need for a lot of these medications, for a lot of these treatments of these diseases. So
I think it's you mentioned chronic, so it's not, we don't really have cures really for this. So it's like, okay, once someone kind of reaches that point, they're gonna kind of have to, keep taking the medication or keep getting treatment. Yes, you can manage. A lot of people like forget. For things like high blood pressure, as you said, diabetes, you are supposed to use you don't always have to use medications, but you're supposed to do things like diets, change up your diet, cut down your sugar, cut down your salt, exercise. That's actually really first line. That's the first thing you're really supposed to do. And then if that alone isn't controlling it, then you go into the medications, as you mentioned. And yeah, it's something that, once you kind of have it, you're gonna, kind of have it for a while. And I guess another
Yeah.
thing to touch to would be that if you look at it's not just in terms of I guess the demographics, look at the percentage of like, or populations around the world are like aging. So it's like a larger percentage, and it's increasing of, the population is of our older age. And then those people, most of these diseases that we're talking about that Indies will produce drugs against are more likely to happen when you're older. So it's not someone who is 12 usually has diabetes. Well, the type that, or hypertension or those stuff. You can have it, but it's not the bulk of cases, or the majority of cases. It's someone who is older. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s onwards.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and you realize there's
if more
also
the
a
population
huge
is that, the market, I think, will continue to grow. You were saying something before?
Oh, sorry to cut you, but yeah, you also I don't know if you've realized it, but there's a trend of younger people actually getting a lot of these non-communicable diseases. So we used to see hypertension, diabetes showing up in people ages 40s, 50s. Now we're seeing it in 30s. I'm seeing hypertension in 20s. So even so currently I'm a part of Global Shapers, and I'm actually a part of the longevity economy task force, which is more of it's global, so it's on the World Economic Forum, and I had the privilege of actually writing in their report on longevity economy, just speaking about what I expect in 2050 to look like in terms of just the longevity economy, especially the health aspect of it, because there are other aspects, there's financial resilience, all of those things, but in terms of just like global health, and then health in Jamaica, the trends and so on, it's going to have a massive increase. We're going to have a massive increase of people with non-communicable diseases, and so a lot of the reliance on these drugs, it's crucial for us in the upcoming years. Very, very crucial. And you're right. First line is diet and exercise, but people find it much easier just to take a pill in the morning, which it's bad. It's terrible. And I wish they understood how sometimes diet and exercise, you can be controlled on just diet and exercise. Like if your hypertension is mild, right? If you and you don't diet, you don't exercise, maybe you're a bit obese or so on. If you just start, I've had patients where I just take them off the medication. But the natural progression is, as you age, you do need to increase the amount of meds you're on. And worse, if you're not dieting or exercising, that's an issue. So I mean, companies like Indies, just based on global trends and local trends, they will make money once they continue doing the right thing in terms of their business model. So yeah, so that's just one other thing within the realm of the ecosystem. And of course the NHF. Now the NHF has this
what does NHF stand for?
National Health Fund, sorry. It's a government entity. And they actually you spoke about this in a previous episode where they offer contracts. There are lots of government contracts to supply drugs to a lot of these healthcare institutions and so on. And I was looking to see if Indies bid for any of these contracts, and they're not there. And
no,
here
they did. The article I think you're referencing does it. Hold on, I think I actually have the source. So the article, it only, I think, pulled the top ones, but you can actually find the document. Yeah, I think this is it. So in the I don't know if you see in my screen.
Yes, I am.
So it's the National Health Fund Pharmaceutical Division 2023-2026 Indies. So I was actually thinking technically I could go through and tally to see how much Indies got of it. So, but they did get. So they got some bit. For. Wait, which drug is this? Acyclovir.
Oh, they have a few.
Yeah, let me see how much times it even shows up.
acarbose. I know they have their acarbose.
Diabetes.
Which is diabetes drug.
Yeah, but yeah, they just weren't, I guess, one of the
higher
larger, the ones that the article mentioned. But yeah, they did actually get.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing, because the NHF will. I think this tender is between, yeah, as you say, 2023, 2026. But
yeah, so.
But they could apply for a larger share of these contracts with the next round of when this tender is being out. So it's just another thing for them to look forward to. I look forward to seeing them actually being in the top 10.
Even look at if you put it into context, where this, I think the article, or I think for the 2023 to 2026, it was almost 30 billion, and so that's 3 years, so that's 10 billion a year. Indies does like, I think, $1 billion or so in revenue.
Yeah, they just hit $1 billion.
So if they were to get, even if they got $1 billion out of that, or so,
exactly,
so 10 billion a year, if they go for 10% of the 10 billion, that's that's them essentially doubling their revenue. So that is that's a pretty, and you said like older other listed companies, so like Lasco got just under 4 billion, and I guess that's 4 billion over the 3 years. So maybe
that's like $1 billion a year.
And we're in 2025 now, so next year, and I think they start the process before, so it's not like they wait till 2026. So you actually may start to hear, I guess, more stuff about that maybe later this year, or going into next year.
I'm hoping they get awarded. They need to just, I hope that they get awarded bigger contracts, or more quantity in terms of contracts.
Well, that would be competitive.
And as you can see, the NHF actually plans to increase the amount of contracts to 30 billion. So there's more money to go around. And if you look, NHF, they've been adding more medications to their list of subsidized drugs. So even the other day, they started to subsidize, I think it came out last month, medications for ADHD and for cervical cancer, which I think is game changing. So
medications for cervical cancer?
Yes.
Was it like chemo?
I need to check that, but it was. I mean, I guess you can look it up, but I guess it would have been chemo. I wonder if it's or doubt to be immunotherapy.
Oh wow, it's not loading.
Oh, there was actually a whole Gleaner article on it. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. This is the NHF website. It's March 28th, 2025. ADHD and cervical cancer are covered on the NHF card program, bringing the number of conditions covered up to 24. Okay, nice. Cervical cancer. Oh yes, chemo. Bevacizumab, carboplatin, cisplatin, with a lot of chemo. Oh, filgrastim. Okay.
And paclitaxel. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's even the
Dexa.
The anti-emetics or the anti-nausea medications too. Some of them dexamethasone, metoclopramide, to help with to suppress the
nausea and vomiting.
Associated with the chemo. Okay, that's.
Oh look, bevacizumab. So it's immunotherapy as well. 96,000. Okay, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean for me that's a step in the right direction. Cervical cancer is one of the worst cancers I mean, all cancers are bad, but cervical cancer, maybe it's just
it's pretty up there in terms of death in Jamaica.
Mortality rates, yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually
had something preventable. It's sad. It's really, really sad. Because watching patients, especially because so from a medical point of view, they say de novo. They say cancers take approximately like 10 years to become like to grow it and become invasive. Some are different than others, of course, but let's say 10 years, right? Like let's say you have colon cancer, you have the polyp, it takes like 10 years to become invasive carcinoma. Same is with like cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is a lot of it is actually caused by HPV, which is a virus transmitted via sexual intercourse. So that's human papilloma virus. Because you can pick up on it with screening, it just makes, because you're supposed to do pap smears. So pap smears is the screening tool to check for cervical cancer. This is a little tangent, of course, right? But for me, it's sad because pap smears should be able to pick up cervical cancer, and it's preventable because you can do screening. But because we still have a lot of cervical cancer in Jamaica, like countries like Rwanda and those countries have eradicated that, or at least gotten the levels down to very, very low levels. And it's quite possible in Jamaica. But have you ever had a patient in the public system waiting on cervical cancer test results? Sometimes it can take up to a year, bro. Literally up to a year for them to get back their results. And I saw that the government, I think still through NHF, what they did, and some people would commend them, right? I am hypocritical of all governments, including my own. So, yeah, I'm super critical. But they did the seemingly right thing by, they allowed patients to get subsidized for pap smears under the NHF. So if you have an NHF card, you go into an office and so on, you can get your pap smear subsidized. Like that procedure can be subsidized. And on the surface, yes, that looks pretty great. That looks, oh yeah, it's subsidized. But the people that truly can't afford pap smears, they don't go to private offices to do their pap smears. They go to the health center, right? Which is free. They go to the clinic. The health center is free. But the backlog can take up to a year to get back those results. So who is that really benefiting? You get me? Or how much good is it actually doing to subsidize it under the NHF? Right? I would have spent that money. If I was in government, I'd have spent that money on, maybe start a different program to be able to figure out, because there are a ton of FDA approved tools that can actually identify cancer cells from pap smears and flag them as cancer. I think the bottleneck must be the limitation on pathologists who can read those pap smears and slides, and that's why it takes so long to get back results, because somebody has to read it. Somebody has to literally look at the slides on a microscope and be like, okay, this has cancer cells or this doesn't have cancer cells, and then generate the report and send it back to the physician. So maybe the bottleneck is on pathologists because we don't have enough. And, if we produce some, they do leave. Or if they do stay, we just don't have enough. Maybe that's a bottleneck. But there are so many other innovative tools nowadays. Like I'm researching a ton at work. Big tangent. I digress. But the NHF, I'm glad that they added, those cervical cancer medications to the list, and ADHD meds and so on. So let's see them keep doing that, and hopefully it's more drugs that are in Indies carries. If you actually look in their prospectus, you can actually see a ton of their drugs that I'm gonna send you the prospectus, but you can see a ton of their drugs that, if you scroll to the bottom of their prospectus, maybe you can, I just sent it to you a while ago, and it's on page like 98, but it was cool because this was from 2018, and they show all the different, so you can scroll all the way to the bottom, but they show all the different drugs that they carried at the time, and how much NHF actually pays for them, and what the pack size is and all of that. And I thought that was pretty cool because you could see which ones the NHF doesn't pay for, or what doesn't fall under the NHF and so on. So there's opportunity for them and for patients as well to get things a bit cheaper. Like Flexim. I don't think the NHF pays for Flexim. But you can take arthritis and there's arthritis medication that's covered under the NHF. I'm not sure. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't an updated list because this is clearly from 2018. But yeah, there's just
Mm-hmm.
opportunity there. So you can
Mm-hmm.
actually see it if you guys wanted to go through their entire catalog. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that very passionate about this industry, as you guys can tell. Very sorry. But that's the ecosystem. Let's jump into some of their plans. Now, one drug in particular that I was talking about, and you actually did an excellent video on. I think I was on vacation, so you were the only person that actually did that video. But we're talking about Regadenoson. So, guys, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to, I put MOA here. That's mechanism of action. I don't think we should go into it too much. You can click it if you want, but it's very medical, all right, and what it does and how it causes, but you explained it beautifully back in that video. So we'll link that video in the description if you guys want to check it out. Check out that video. Excellent breakdown. You went bro, it was like perfect. That was literally the perfect explanation on the diagram. So basically what it does, what is Regadenoson? In simple terms, it helps a lot of diagnostic procedures of what we call cardiac perfusion. So how well is the heart?
Cardiac perfusion.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
breaking it down. So how well is the heart being fed blood? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Are there areas of the heart that's not being fed blood? Well enough? What is that due to? It's mainly due to coronary artery disease, plaque buildup in the
coronary
arteries.
artery disease.
It's plaque buildup. Yeah, I'm gonna explain everything, but your video was way better. So if they find this a bit highfalutin, just go to Preston's video and watch that video. But when you eat a bunch of junk food or you have high cholesterol, it actually deposits in the arteries, and some arteries are preferentially deposits in, or it just shows up. And one of them is the coronary arteries, which is the arteries that feed the heart. Heart's a muscle, so it have to get blood. And so what this drug does is it allows a lot of those arteries to open up, what we call vasodilate. And through Preston's mechanism that he spoke about with the diagram, it's much easier to see. It just shows the areas that are lacking perfusion, basically. So it's a good measure of, which arteries are blocked and so on. So you can actually see that. And Regadenoson is really good because it has a lower side effect profile than other tests, because people used to do is stress echoes and stress tests, meaning you have to run on a treadmill and so on. But suppose you're bedridden, or suppose you can't do a lot of those exercise tests, right? Then you do.
It's not even just that though, because some people, they could, they could have the ability to walk or whatever, but what happens in the test is that you are trying to essentially stress your heart or get your heart to like work really hard, as if like because that helps you to essentially light up the areas that are, I guess, you can think of it as having the problem. So you have to, like, say you need to reach an exercise level of 80%, but some people can only maybe reach 50%. Even when they try hard, they can only reach the 50%. So sometimes what you can even do is I think you can actually even add the Regadenoson with exercise to like help you reach a bit further. Yeah, I think you can actually do that. So it's like you can even do it like a combination, but it's like you need to you need to reach a certain level of activity, and someone maybe can't. A lot of people can't do that, and so they need drugs, as you said, like Regadenoson.
Yeah, and I think it's a great. So it's IV, right? You have to. It's not like a pill. You have to push it through the veins. And yeah, it has a really low side effect profile, because other drugs like adenosine, and there's some other, there are other drugs that you can use to do this same thing. They actually have higher side effect profile because they can bind to receptors elsewhere. They can cause what we call bronchoconstriction, so you can't breathe as well. They can cause a bunch of other side effects, but this one has very low side effect profile because of how specific the receptors are to the heart. So yeah, it's really, really good that it's the reason we're talking about this is because, you know, they've been approved. It's the first Jamaican company to get an actual, what we call
Caribbean, actually.
Oh, yeah, true. To get approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, which is it's brilliant. It's actually brilliant that they got that. So there's I have market size of that area, but there are a ton of different Gleaner articles. I sent you one in our chat, but yeah, there are different articles that show the size of that market in America and just globally. So in 2022, the global approximation was $0.47 billion. By 2030, it's projected to reach, you know, this is what 880 million, and they show how much it grows by per year, 8.61%. But there are other projections that show, you know, you'll reach 1.2 billion. And there's an article that shows the US amount, and in February 2024, the year ending February 2024, the US sales of Regadenoson injection were approximately 668 million, right, for that year. So when you think about that, Indies is trying to get a portion of this market share because that's the market they're trying to break out into, the US market. All right. Imagine if they get just 0.5% of market share in America. Right. That's what? 3 million? That's 3 million US. That's a ton of money because right now they make what?
They're about 6 mil US or so.
Yeah, they make 6 mil US
in revenues.
Yeah. So that would be huge for them.
A 50% increase.
And of just a 0.5% market share in America. And you explained in that previous video too, guys, you really should watch that video. It's a very short video, but very comprehensive. You explained how, you know, drugs are made and how they get their patents and how long their patents last for. And, you know, usually it's like a monopoly. So only one company has the rights to basically sell this drug. But at the end of that tenure, other companies get the rights to distribute this drug too, in the generic form. And so that's literally what Indies is doing. So, you know, hopefully we see some sales soon. I say hopefully, like I'm a shareholder, but yeah, it's just a Jamaican company, so this is huge. The first company in the Caribbean to get US approval on this kind of drug, and then, you know, hitting the US market and so on. That would actually be amazing. So yeah, they actually got approval from the US FDA and so on. So yeah, and there was actually an article stating when they wanted to start selling, and it should have been earlier this year, I believe. So it should have been earlier this year that they're trying to sell, but we haven't seen that in the recent financials. If you actually look in the recent financials, there's actually a Gleaner article where he speaks about it. So the most recent financials were decent, but not as good as the CEO wants. So I'm gonna find the article, and actually you can come out of Regadenoson. So if you actually look in the delays, click the delays. So if you there were some delays, and I cited the CEO, Dr. Muppuri, but there are some delays in getting generic drugs. This is a bit separate, but there's also some stuff that ties into revenue there. So if you click this article and click this link, I thought this was a really good article. But he basically said my 20% top line and the bottom line was an ultra conservative statement. This was for the last financials that just came out. If you give me those approvals for whatever we have that is stranded and being strangled, I'll beat my own records. Muppuri declared. I love that. And he explains why the delays happen. So basically, throughout this entire article, and we'll link it, it's basically just talking about why
it was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's what he's saying is true. It was like if I understood correctly, it was like, hey, if you're a drug distributor and you want to sell this version of the drug in Jamaica, you have to like apply on the ministry's website, right? And it was like they sent an application, and then they're waiting for a response, and then it's almost like months or a year later they respond, but then they're like, oh, we actually changed how you're supposed to apply, and we're telling you a year after we changed it, so you're gonna have to like reapply. And I was like, what the heck? That's ridiculous.
Down. You actually highlighted it, that red right there, and here see here, and the changes have negatively impacted the entire industry, not just them.
Yeah, because I think R.A. Williams, I think I've seen it's a general. I think I saw R.A. Williams complaining about it, which is pretty sad, because I think that's kind of why he said the Indies is kind of pushing for the US, because it's like they have drugs that they would want to sell here. They have the partnerships, but if it takes so long to go through this, you're missing out. And they're like, hey, we can't just keep waiting 2 years.
Yeah.
After sending in the thing, like it's kind of sad, because I mean, at the end of the day, technically, if they could supply the drug at a cheaper price, because they remember Indies just does generics, but if there was like a drug and it's the branded version being sold, and then sometimes the generic drugs can be way more affordable, like half the price or even more than the branded one. So technically, it could even be a good thing for the country, because if the government is paying for that, or the government does some sort of subsidy, that literally could save taxpayers like millions of dollars. Like the money could be spent elsewhere. So I think it could be a win-win if that were to be sorted out. That's something else, I guess. If I was like an investor in Indies, I'd probably be looking at, like, if there was some sort of update or change in regulation to kind of make it a lot more faster, so then a lot these different companies could start applying and getting more sales.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, because can you imagine the US FDA getting approval for that, but you can't get approval for your local drugs, for generic drugs? Like, the process must have been very strict to get that FDA approval. And it's even more difficult to get through locally. So it doesn't bode well. It doesn't bode well at all. And look at it. He says, certainly we did not get the change of application document for a year or two after they had changed it. So it's really rough. And he just keeps speaking about just the struggles. They came back. We submitted them in 2022, the drug samples, everything, and they came back to me in 2024 with their comments. So it's just so bad. And then if he keeps scrolling, he just keeps talking about where his headspace is, and I kind of like that. He says, he'll focus. Well, not this part that I like. He says he'll focus his time and energy outside of Jamaica. That's where my headspace is now. And yeah, I kind of like it and don't like it, because it does, it's such a good company. Getting cheaper drugs, you're so right. Getting cheaper drugs for patients in Jamaica, crucial, right? Because these things are just not cheap. But then he also says, we are investing in innovations. We invest in drug cocktails and combinations, where we will create a brand new market that never existed before. This almost sounds like I read this in Trump's voice for some reason. Never existed before. Yeah, but we'll create the market, we'll own it, we'll grow with it. And I think that's good, because I think that's the way that this should go. I think that's the way that medicine is going. I've seen a lot of cool or really good combination drugs where you have, I remember seeing one that had aspirin, which is a blood thinner in it. I think it was a torvastatin in it, which is a cholesterol lowering medication, and it was an antihypertensive as well in it. I think it was a combination. So imagine now patients that would take like 4 or 5 pills and it's all just in one pill, right? That's game changing. That's literally game changing for their pill burden.
You said that was in Jamaica or that was
no
abroad?
I didn't see it in Jamaica. I saw it on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, my content, my timeline is kind of weird. This medicine, it's a bunch of random stuff. But I thought that was cool. And imagine if that was here, you know, I would be prescribing that for patients that I have on all of those meds. And I'm like, let's see how you do on one.
Does it work out more affordable to the patient too?
Could. I don't know the cost of that one drug, but imagine it could. It really could. So, because a lot of these patients, we put them on aspirin, you know, especially with coronary artery disease, the same disease we were talking about before, that Regadenoson. You know, the risk with that is, you know, when you get atherosclerosis, which is same, you know, deposition of fat within the artery, so it narrows the space and narrows the amount of blood that can actually get to the tissues.
It's like a hose. Like if you have a hose and then you're trying to, you know, give blood and stuff to the parts of the body or the heart, and it needs the blood. If you're blocking it off, it's going to be harder to have as much blood go there.
And the main, well, one of the risks, or one of the most common reasons for what we call MIs, myocardial infarctions, or what we know as heart attacks, is when that plaque ruptures, right? A clot is formed and it blocks the entire lumen, and the entire blood vessel is blocked, and therefore no blood can actually get to that portion of the heart, and that portion of the heart dies. So that's the good thing with aspirin. Aspirin prevents, you know, that kind of formation. It's a blood thinner, so it prevents a lot of that. That's one of the use cases of aspirin. It prevents, you know, that clot or that plaque. Yeah, that formation. And Preston's bringing it up right now. So, you know, it's kind of, it would be in Indies' best interest to have a lot more combination drugs to treat patients a bit more holistically, not just. I like those combination drugs. Sorry, me nerding out. But going right back to Indies, you know, that was just the thing. But if you look through a lot of those articles, it wasn't just Regadenoson, you know. They said 2 drugs, but we don't know what the second drug is that they're seeking to get FDA approval. But that to me tells me they're bullish.
That kind of fell through, you know. So I think what they were saying is that it was supposed to be like a cancer drug. But I was trying to find out which cancer thing, but I couldn't find any sources on it. And I think they said that what ended up happening was that the market for that ended up like dropping, like it ended up like dropping significantly in value. And so they said that it didn't even make sense. I think they said that they'd possibly just sell the rights or something to like another company.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Drug cocktails and combinations is what we were talking about before. And the Ministry of Health and Wellness and NHF, that was just them applying for a larger share of the contracts. So that's one thing to look out for them. But yeah, I mean, you can tell Indies' growth has been, you know, steadily increasing over the years. They now pay 12.5% corporate income tax. So, you know, this is the first year where they're paying that, and they're still profitable. They're still beating their profits from last year. If you click, so they're listed 2018, so it's been 5 years. If you click management and ownership, just quick highlight on Dr. Muppuri and his wife. He is the CEO and the founding chairman, and she is, you know, co-founder and executive director and COO. And also we can look at the top 10. So something we look out for as, you know, Limitless is that percentage here. Total ownership of top owners, 91%. Very tightly held company. Very tightly held company. You can tell BioPris Holdings Inc. is the majority shareholder at 75%. They own just over 1 billion shares. You also have GK coming in second with 3.5% of the shares.
They did their IPO.
Yes, they did their IPO. And you can see who else is in top 10 and so on. So, yeah, and Vishnu, his wife, I believe, yeah, and Vishnu Muppuri is there as well. So you can see who is in top 10. If you actually go to there, maybe we should check out My Money, JA, for a second. There is something interesting that happened recently in terms of the trading activity with Indies that I was looking at. And you can see it on that day. So there's a huge trade that happened. See, a director purchased 35 million shares on March 19, 2025.
So what, 100 mil?
What was the price? That was over 100 mil. Because it traded at, yeah, you can tell. See there. Sorry. So
What day was it? March what? 19?
March 19, yes. And it was, that one was reversed. 311 was out the trading ban, so it was reversed and they traded at 312. So $3.12
$109 mil.
$109 million. Yeah. And then when you look at top 10, there are only a couple people that could be.
Buy side or sell side?
Oh, look at it. Who has
so it would
really
only
top three?
Is that a BioPris, GK, or Sunand Gajineni?
Yeah, sorry for pronouncing him very wrong, but
and he said that it was a director who bought too, right? Wonder who and you can see the directors here.
Yep.
I wonder who it was. It would be nice if the BioPris. Did they appoint a new director recently? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
So it'd be interesting if BioPris was buying
more. They already own such a huge amount.
But I'm wondering who would sell then.
They're at 75%, so that's 3.5.
Because I think there was another trade though. I don't think it was just the 35.
There was another trade the day after.
Yes. Yeah, how much?
So it wasn't as high.
Did you add up how much they both were then?
It was, yes, I did. I remember doing that.
Hold on. So March 19th, 35 mil, and then March 20th, 9.9. How much does that add up to someone's shareholding?
Hold on,
I get 44.90. Yeah, I think that adds up to someone's shareholding. So you could actually, Susan. Oh, so see, it was Sunand Gajineni. So it adds up to their shareholding. So they sold.
Likely.
And I guess the question is who's buying.
We don't really know yet, but it is likely.
Well, okay.
We can only speculate.
I guess the question is who is buying. I'm wondering if it's either. Who do you think? My guess could be is maybe Barita. Maybe Barita could be buying more. Or maybe even NCB.
Somebody knows something is coming. I remember it said that a director purchased.
Oh yeah, a director.
The director is the one
who's
buying.
I think I guess the rest then. So a director bought some, and then you can see the directors there. Maybe it's BioPris, Muppuri.
Yeah, but one director purchased 35 mil shares,
and another company buying more.
Yeah, somebody else bought some. So, I mean, somebody knows something's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And if we estimate, because you can always do projections on what the Regadenoson would look like, or just even the organic growth, because they've been growing, I think their revenues grew 10% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they pay good dividends. I think they pay dividends, once last year, but they already
It is
paid
once a
one.
year.
Yeah, but they already paid one this year.
Mm-hmm.
This was 11 cents. So the yield is 3.16.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a yield at current price. Current price is $3.48.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems like a decent yield, to be honest, for one
Mm-hmm.
dividend payment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in the US market. I really hope they break out well into the US market because, as we
Mm-hmm.
say, even 0.5% of that market share
Mm-hmm.
could increase their revenues by 50%
Mm-hmm.
for that
I
year.
think it could get a lot of publicity or news because of the whole, it's a Jamaican company. They're selling, their drug in the US, the first company to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I think they could get a lot of news around that.
Mm. You like it?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm surprised you didn't.
Like
There's
it
an
enough to buy?
article. there's an article that I thought you would have spoke about. I'm trying to. I don't remember what the title of the article is. The CEO actually talked about I think he shared some profit or revenue targets or something.
Oh, yes.
Do you?
Why do I feel like you mentioned that in the other video that you did?
I don't
I'm
remember.
not sure. I don't remember either, but I know what you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
I
And
think
he's
it's.
always ambitious with his targets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
This is it. Oh yeah. So he
Mm-hmm.
said, my conservative estimate is that our total revenue should at least double. I go
Mm-hmm.
further to say that a better estimate would be in the order of 3 billion, and the bottom line should perform in the same way. This was when? This was September 2024. Glean article, Indies Pharma looking to double sales after securing FDA drug approval. So, yeah, because this is saying so he's saying double, and I think they did $1 billion last financial year or so.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying essentially they could do $2 to $3 billion
Yeah, triple
in revenue. Yeah. Actually, I think I did some numbers on it. I was saying let me see. So if they did 2 billion, so for the financial year, their last financial year, which ended October 2024, they did 1.1 bill revenue and about over 200 million profit. If they did a 2 billion in revenue, which he said is somehow a low, he says that's a low target.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a similar profit margin, that could be them doing 400 mil, or essentially doubling their profits, or doubling revenues, doubling profits. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if it was 3 billion, which he actually thinks,
I would have tripling profits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be insane. Because and the thing is, look how tightly held that company is. That stock price would fly. Imagine out of nowhere you see a report where they're just making double that. Like at that point, that price is going to 10. And then imagine the man announce, let's just do a stock split. Jeez. Can't even imagine what the market would do with that. And they pay good dividends. Yeah. Because at that point, when I looked through their prospectus, they actually said their dividend policy was very interesting, you know. I feel like they said, let me find it. But they said something very interesting about their dividends. It was about 30%, but it's not worded like minimum. See it here. According, the board expects to declare and pay an annual dividend on the ordinary shares that amounts to not less than 30% of net profits available for distribution. They literally said not less than. I don't normally see companies phrase it like that. They usually say up to a specific amount. So even if those profits are there, the dividends will increase as well once those profits are increasing. So, bro, like, if they do what they're actually say they're gonna do, and there are no more hiccups and so on in the sale of Regadenoson, this company could fly to the moon, literally, because they hit $4 the other day. They're trading at $4. Look at that.
I guess the only question is like how, because you know we've mentioned that okay, yes, they are one of the companies that you know will be able to sell the drug, but they're not, you know, they're not really early necessarily. There's a lot of other companies that have actually have a 2-year head start to Indies. But the thing is, it's just, I guess US is a pretty big market. There was even an article recently that they, I guess, were kind of updating us on saying where they were in the process. Like I think they had like signed a distributor, and they started sending over some of the batches of the drug to them, like a small amount. They said 400,000 worth, or just over 60 million. It'd be nice if, I guess, they gave us more info, like to say, okay, how much. I guess they would do like an initial batch and then the batches after that, I guess. Yeah, I think it's really just a question: can they really? Even the article here mentions that there are about 10 players in the market, and the thing is, those players are even larger than Indies. You know, some of these are multi-billion US dollar businesses, like over 10, maybe some even 100 times the size of Indies. So it's not like they're kind of like an underdog, you know. So it'll be a question of, can they really, you know, I guess, steal that market share? How good is their distributor? I would have loved it. They told us who the distributor was. To get some,
I think when I was doing my research, I did see a distribution agreement with somebody for Regadenoson. I'll try and find it and link it. I think I actually said it earlier on in the video. It's a KP Pharmaceutical Tech partnership.
I think that's the company that was
it's not the distributor. I'm trying to say who the distributor was. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they didn't say it. I couldn't find the distributor. But it would be interesting. That's why my estimates were pretty conservative and saying, just 0.5% of the market. Because if you get that 0.5%, and I'm lowballing it because he's optimistic, but I mean, which CEO isn't optimistic? You get me? Like, I want to see some real growth. So let's see. Secure 60 mil from first batch. I want to see what that next report is gonna look like. But it's not even the next report I'm really looking forward to. It's the following report. So that would be their Q3. I think that would be a better judge of the performance, because we haven't really seen much about how sales are going. We haven't seen anything really. We're just speculating at this point. But let's see. Let's actually see.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just, can they? I mean, we've already said that the Jamaican side is kind of faced with a lot of issues. They do want to push on the Jamaican side, but there's certain things that they can't really control. So they have to be like, hey, okay, we'll still sell our drugs in Jamaica, but if we really want to grow the business, we have to, I guess, look outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think once again, if they do it, the distributor is a good distributor. They're able to, keep buying their products from them. They could,
bingo.
Yeah. So I could
Fully
see
bingo.
the stock. I think could. What price is it now? Like $3 or something?
$3.50. It meanders. But if you look at the queue, the sell queue is empty. It's very light. Like the queue looks very light right now. Like that stock could go to $4 on very little money. Very, very little money right now. You could probably throw in your lunch money and you reach $4. Let's see it. Oh, both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides are a bit, but look at that. There's only one order, 10,000 units, almost 11,000 units at $3.49. And then the next number 2 is $3.92. It literally only takes, how much money is this to get to $4? $250,000 to get to $4. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just really a question like, how long is it gonna take? Are they gonna hit any snags in this process? Yeah, but I mean, if things work out, they're able to steal market share, and yeah, I think I could see them at like $5 probably within the next year.
I like your conservative estimate. You mean, well, steadily trading at $5? I could see them at that too in the next year. I agree.
So how much percent would that be? It's like 30.
That's 1.5 upon 3.5, so that's more than 30, maybe 40. No, my math's off. Yeah, probably about 40%. I don't know. I'm just doing this from my head, but yeah, why not? But for me, it's not. It's not even. You said it's more of like a how long will it take? Because I don't foresee a ton of different. Maybe there are some snags, yes, which will delay it. But if all they need is less than 1%, well, if for me and my estimates, obviously everybody is different. Some people would want them to have like a 2% market share, 5%, and while that would be amazing, that would be great, right? That would be mind blowing, actually. If all they need is 0.5% to increase their revenues by what did we say? That was of that market 600, so that's 300. That's what, 3 mil US, 3 point something mil US to increase their revenues by what, 50%? Yeah, that would still be amazing. So
I guess I was just we were talking about like all the other companies, so like I was looking at them versus R.A. Williams, because you realize like R.A. Williams listed, they aren't, I don't think they're doing any like US drug sales or anything like that. They're focusing like on Jamaica, and then because they're, I guess, kind of constrained here, they're gonna have their limits. So yes, they can try to do the generic drugs, apply with the ministry, do all of that, but if the ministry is still dilly-dallying and whatnot, it's gonna affect them.
yeah.
And so that's why I was like you could look at two companies like that and say, hey, I could, maybe this company may do better because of this. And then,
Yeah, because people do look at industries in isolation, and you're looking at R.A. Williams listed at $1, and right now it's trading at 65 cents. Yet,
did you apply?
No.
Oh.
I said that a bit too quick, but no, I didn't apply. Yeah, I did say that a bit too quick. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But
Oh
no,
boy.
I didn't apply. And I kind of knew this would happen. I didn't think it would be this bad, but
Mm.
based on the delays and well, they're just it's not as it's just when you compare Indies and Aria
Mm-hmm.
Williams and all the reasons why we think Indies will do well and so on, and
Mm-hmm.
what Aria Williams has outlined and their
Mm-hmm.
plans and so on. Indies
Mm-hmm.
just has a stronger case, and the market sees that and prices
Mm.
that in. Because even now, what's the PE ratio for Aria Williams? Can
I
scroll
think
up.
they're actually at a loss.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And Indies, I think, is like 19 at this price or 20 at this price.
Is that fairly valued?
I think people are pricing in the Regadenoson deal, but I don't think it's a large portion of the
You think
market
people are
really.
pricing it in now though?
Yes. Just well,
Mm.
because they're trading below $3 before this, like maybe last year or
Mm.
so on, they're like $2 high. They would
Mm.
always
No,
kind of touch $3 and so on, but now
mm.
they're actively trading at around 350,
Because technically they're, well, how much you said the PE for indices?
like 20,
For the
19
junior
something.
markets, average is around that.
Mm,
So it's not, I don't know, like, are people really talking about it?
no, not really. You're right. Is the market
Mm.
really pricing it in?
Mm.
Good question. Who do you think outside of the the director that purchased the 35 million units? Who do you think bought the
Mm-hmm.
rest?
I was thinking it's probably a broker. So it's either
GK or
GK,
Barito?
or I think there was even an NCB one could have maybe bought. I think Barisa entered recently though, so that's what I was thinking. It could have been them.
Oh,
I think
maybe.
they.
And then you have VM Wealth Equity Fund, which was buying before. Yeah, they bought in that quarter.
I
They
think GK
increased.
sold some at one point though. Yeah, GK
Yeah,
sold
right
some at
there.
one point. So I don't know.
And that's by what, 9 million units too.
Like, yeah, 10 mil basically.
10 mil, yeah, 10
So would they
million.
sell? And well, I guess technically the price. I guess you could work out what price they were selling at then. Like, is it if they were selling? Like, are they buying at a cheaper price than they sold at? If it is them that was buying, I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess we'll see when the next report comes out.
Yeah.
I just hope whoever bought continues to buy and buy some on the market on the open market.
Spoken like a shareholder. But you said Preston, one to watch. Another one to watch.
Yeah, I'd
Guys,
love to
if you
have the Dr. Muppuri on. Actually, something I should say that
yeah.
I'll try to probably link it there. I watched a interview with Dr. Muppuri. He actually trained in Jamaica as a medical doctor, and he even used to work at UWI. And like he was telling his story about like how the gap he saw with like medications and it being expensive, and then started up his business and how they almost failed, and it was like him and his wife and all of the stuff. It was with what's his name, Mark Cross Curry. If I remember, I will try to link the interview. It was actually a pretty good interview. I'd love to speak to him. I was actually thinking of going to the AGM, but the thing is, I think it's in Mobay.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's in Mobay. Well, you want to go drive down to Mobay, talk to them?
You could take a day. Why not?
I think it is. Let me see when it is. I think it's
I have a
soon
lot of
though.
questions to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's normally around May or something like that.
I think they announced it. I think they have the date. I'm loading it up.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to ask them a few questions, or to even have them on the podcast. That would be brilliant.
Let me see. May 29th, a Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Freeport, Montego Bay.
That's
yeah.
weird.
Because if it's 10:30 and then for you to even reach Mobay, that's like 2 hours?
Yeah.
Hour and a half, 2 hours. So then you'd have to even leave that. You have to leave out early then. I wish this is why I wish more people streamed like the meetings and stuff. Yeah, I'd love to ask like some questions about it. Yeah,
it's like more inclusive that way.
What, like why do they think they're gonna be able to break into this US market when they're so quote unquote late to the party and stuff?
Yeah,
things like that. And yeah, I'd love to ask them some stuff, but yeah, we'll see. So if you see us at the AGM, you see us.
And if we get some good questions for you guys, we'll post
Could actually take the Nutsford though.
True.
Yeah, because Nutsford starts pretty early.
True. Good.
I guess you could just check how close the I'll actually think about it still.
Okay. One to watch, bro. Guys, if you guys love this episode, please drop a like, right? Subscribe if you really loved it. Share it with a friend. Thank you guys so much, as always, for supporting us. And without further ado, Limitless out.
Peace.